I want to share a strange experience told to me by a woman my friend once brought along, Sarah, a pseudonym. It was something that happened in the childhood home she lived in when she was a little girl. Right by the front door of that house was a small room. It wasn't a living room or a bedroom, just an odd little space with no clear purpose. The door to that room was always kept shut, and no one in the family ever used it. It was treated almost like a forbidden room, and though Sarah was curious, there was an unspoken understanding in the family that no one would mention it. One day, when her parents were out and Sarah was left home alone, she finally gave in to her curiosity. That room had always intrigued her. On impulse, she couldn't hold back her curiosity any longer, so she opened the door and looked inside. It turned out to be used for storage, cluttered with cardboard boxes and old furniture. But what caught her eye was a single doll placed on top of an old chest at the back of the room. It was an antique porcelain doll, worn with age and covered in dust. She had faded blonde curls, glassy blue eyes that reflected the light, a pale white face with rouged cheeks, and a frilled dress whose colors had long since faded. Sarah said it felt as though the doll was staring right at her. Sarah still remembers clearly how it felt like the doll's gaze was alive, looking straight back at her. Near the front, within easy reach, was a cardboard box. When she opened it, she found an old photo album. She pulled it out and began flipping through the pages. Inside were several photos showing her parents together with a young girl she didn't recognize. But Sarah had no siblings. She was an only child. Maybe a relative's child, she thought. Without much concern, she put the album back into the box. But that very night, while she was asleep in bed, she felt an eerie sensation, like someone bouncing up and down on top of her body. The pressure was heavy, like the weight of actual human legs stepping on her. She tried to open her eyes, but her body was paralyzed in fear, completely unable to move. For about a week this continued, leaving Sarah exhausted and sleep-deprived. Finally, she confessed to her parents that ever since sneaking into that room and looking through the album, these strange things had been happening. Her parents' faces darkened for a moment, but all they said was, "Don't worry about it." From their reaction, Sarah felt certain it had something to do with the unknown girl in the photos, but since her parents refused to say more, she couldn't press the matter further. Later, when Sarah secretly peeked into the unused room again, the album and the porcelain doll were gone. Even after that, the eerie occurrences around Sarah did not stop. At last, her worried parents finally opened up and spoke. Before Sarah was born, they had once had a daughter, but she had died in a car accident at the age of 6. Sarah had an older sister. The doll had been a gift from a friend to celebrate the child's birth. After her death, her parents couldn't bring themselves to throw it away, so they had left it displayed. All of the belongings and keepsakes that had once been her sister's were stored in that room. Of course, her parents had always intended to tell Sarah the truth someday. But according to her parents, in recent years, strange phenomena had been happening frequently. The door to the room, though shut, would somehow be found open. In the middle of the night, from deep within the supposedly empty room, they would hear sounds as if someone were moving around. That wasn't all. Shoes and sneakers neatly lined up at the entryway would often be found scattered, as if someone had deliberately kicked them around. And the incidents involving that porcelain doll were even more unsettling. They would find the entire glass case shattered on the floor. The doll's position would change, its angle shifting as though it were now staring straight at them. It was as if the doll itself had a will and was moving on its own. These events kept happening again and again. Her parents, unable to deal with it any longer, consulted a pastor from a church they knew and asked him to cleanse the room. According to the pastor, the porcelain doll carried the spirit of Sarah's deceased sister, who was constantly watching the family. Her sister's soul left lingering regrets in this world, and even now continues to float, trying to convey her will to her family through the doll. It was also explained that the souls of children who die at a young age are especially prone to dwell in vessels such as dolls. In other words, because her parents had hidden her sister's existence, that lonely spirit, driven by solitude, had been using the doll to assert her presence more and more strongly. From then on, Sarah and her parents began to sort through albums and keepsakes, offering prayers and remembering her late sister with sincerity. The pastor told them it was not good to keep such objects like the doll indefinitely, so they brought it to the church, where prayers and a cleansing ritual were performed, and then it was burned. The pastor also warned that keeping too many of the sister's belongings was not good either, so they burned her clothes and toys along with the doll. The only things they kept were a few photographs of her sister. They placed them in frames and set 3 of them on the side table in the living room, as if she were still there, watching her family. Sarah and her family did everything they could to carry out cleansing rituals. After that, the strange phenomena stopped completely. And finally, Sarah could never forget the sight of her parents standing before the photo frames of her sister placed on the side table in the living room, tearfully saying, "We're sorry for hiding you all this time." Now, on her sister's birthday, the family places flowers, lights candles, and gathers together to share memories of Sarah's sister. "I truly believe my sister is still watching over us from heaven," Sarah quietly told me.